What you doing, beloved?
Attention, attention, my black brothers. What I want y'all to do right now is take out the do-rag, the silky, tie it down. I want to see the waves glistening. If you got nappy hair, pick it. Don't let nobody discourage you.
Ariel.
Black boy, black boy.
All right, so just to get y'all started, do you all prefer to slide in someone's DMs or have your DMs slide into?
Not y'all in my business already. We just got started.
We just get it. We getting it. We getting into it. We getting into it. What's up?
Let me just say that, like, historically in person, I love for people to just, like, approach me. But when it comes to the DMs, bitch, I'm going to slip and slide all through that motherfucker. That's just me. That's how I do.
Oh, I wish I had your confidence. So here's the thing. I would love to be approached more, but I've been finding out recently that I can come off as intimidating, which sucks. Because I'm like, what the hell? Or also, I just don't know when people are flirting with me. And that's also a thing that's kind of awkward for me. But I would love to be approached. But then also, I have no problem with sliding into someone's DMs. If I want you, why not?
Exactly.
Right?
Why not?
I am known to slide in a couple of DMs, honey. I have no problem with doing it. I am not afraid of rejection. Also, I feel like I've had to put on this like trope that I have to approach because I'm pretty tall and I give this quote unquote look that people, which is very problematic. And I always try to debunk that because I love somebody to slide in mine. I'm like, take care, show me what I do. What's up. But no, I definitely will slide in. But if you slide in mine, we might, you might get to have a little conversation going on because I'm like, you bold. All right.
Wait, so how are y'all sliding in? What's the one line that y'all are saying when you're sliding in?
Ooh.
Sometimes I actually lead with an emoji, which I know is a little played, but it's just like the easiest thing to do. But I also like to make a joke about like marriage or some shit, just because I'm like, obviously I don't want to marry you, but maybe that gets thrown like, maybe people take that the wrong way. I don't know.
No,
like one time I was like, where's my marriage proposal? And I was like, I don't know how you guys are.
What the hell? Girl, did they like it? And what was the response? First of all,
it's kind of cute. It's kind of cute.
Got a really good response from that one. I just want to say, like, it was cute.
Okay.
It sparked a conversation. The mutual attraction was established at that point. So it's a hit or miss. You got to pull out what you can depending on the person.
Yeah, I'm very like Carmen Sandiego. So I'm over here going through your Twitter, your DMs, your messages. I mean, your like Instagram, and then I'll find something that I can like talk to you about. And I'll be like, so you like anime? Like, what is your favorite show? Or like, oh, you like watch this show? Like, what episode are you on? I'm very much like I find things that they may like that I can like talk about and do that, or I just hit them with an emoji and I just put my tongue out or something. I'm not like a troll, but I definitely like I'm strategic about who I do it with. Now, I'm not gonna be like the girl that if you go to a party and they're like, he was in my DMs. There might be two people that be like, because I don't want nobody to be knowing that what I be doing. So I don't need to be that girl. I don't need to be the person at the party. Everybody is like, he video me DMs, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna take me a to-go drink.
Where everybody knows, he's the one that slips and slides. We know about his tea.
Exactly.
He pulled that line on me. But what is up, everybody? It is your boy, Lord Devery.
And I'm Derwin King.
And welcome back to another episode of That Black Boy Joy, where we create a space where black boys can be themselves and
so much more.
We have a guest in the building with us. Like we have lately. I don't know why I'd be like, but we have Ryan Mitchell, aka TheSlayGawd, in the building with us. So we actually shouted him out a couple of weeks ago, and we were like, why not have him on the show? Because it is going to be key. So Ryan, hi, how are you?
I can't believe y'all shouted me out. That was like so fun to see, like waking up that morning being like, who, me? So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here with you both.
We do it spontaneously. That's how we don't let people know that we're going to do it. So they just get this like random 12 p.m. like love. And they're like, Who, you see my work? That's what we do.
It was exciting. It was exciting. I've been peeping the Instagram. Like I've been like looking at the Instagram and stuff. And so I'm excited and proud of the work that you all are putting into. So
thank you.
The flowers, honey.
And we are proud of you. Just to give you all a little background, Ryan is a radio and TV host and content creator who has worked with GLAAD, MTV, BET, and many other shows. He recently interviewed Demi Lovato on, excuse me, this drink.
I love that Wendy Williams moment. That was such a Wendy Williams moment. It's like, oh my goodness, not the burp.
It was. Oh my gosh.
So sorry. He recently interviewed Demi Lovato and hosted Out Loud's Raising Voices concert in LA that featured Adam Lambert, Vincent, Kim Petras, and many other talented artists. He is a Black queer face and voice who we need to see. I'm so sorry. My drink threw me all off. We need to see his face more often, y'all. So, okay, I told Ryan what I was drinking before. It is a cold pressed carrot. Granny Smith beet kale lemon drink, and the beet hit me so hard.
Is it good?
Yeah, beets sound delicious. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Really? I was attracted to the Granny Smith.
It's more beets.
Yes,
it's very much more beets. It's very much, but it just got me right here in my throat when I was doing your little when I was doing your bio. But we are here now. So Ryan, what has brought you joy today, and what does Black Boy Joy mean to you?
Ooh, I mean, it might be corny, but I feel like you both have brought me joy today. Like today has been like, I mean, this week has been exhausting. I'm not going to lie to you. But this has been fun. Just being able to like talk to some mutuals and be like, what's up, friend? How y'all doing? And so this is kind of really bringing me a lot of joy right now. So I have to say that. But Black Boy Joy for me is just showing up, taking up space and being every part of the intersections that you exist in without having to pick and choose which one it comes more important, because we're all these things all in together in one thing. And so for me, it's just being myself and not feeling like I have to be anything else, to be quite honest.
You embody that so beautifully too, just like watching how you show up in this really authentic and beautiful and expressive way. And I always admire when people can be themselves and be expressive without it feeling like a show, like an overt performance. It's very natural to who you are.
Oh yeah, I just don't care. I will talk more into it, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, if I'm going to do what I'm doing, you're going to take me how you get me.
Right.
I think we need to have that more. I think a lot of people are always thinking, of course we always are thinking, what do others think of me or view of me? But if we go around and be like, girl, you're going to get what you get, and you're going to like it or love it, or some are going to like it and some are going to love it, then it's the rest is history. I think that's when that natural like energy exudes out. But we're going to get into that more, later on. But Devin, what we doing today? What we doing?
Yes.
Doing it? Yes.
So I have a movie in mind, and I'm going to very poorly explain it. Hopefully you guys have seen it. So group of kids grow up in the hood, and you know what? There's so many movies that could be. So let me throw in another detail.
I was like, literally?
I literally first thought Cheaper by the Dozen, but then you said the hood, and I said, oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
Not that.
But it's a 2-parent home.
Okay.
They grew up in a hood.
2-parent home. And it's a
Baby's
film?
Kids? Baby's Kids?
Nope.
Is it animated?
No.
Are we there yet?
Because I want to say Johnson's
hood.
That's why I was like, I want to say Johnson's Family like Vacation, but like that's not it. Okay.
Crookland.
There we go, baby. There we go.
What is Crookland? I have never seen Crookland.
To be clear, it's not the hood. It's like they live in Brooklyn, but they call it Crookland. So Crookland is a Spike Lee joint, one of my favorite films. It's a coming of age story. I didn't really give it away to y'all fully because it's actually about the little girl and her sort of coming into herself. She's the only girl, and I think about 5 or 6 kids. Yeah. So we chronicle her journey throughout that film. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a really beautiful piece of art, and it's really funny.
The
And
mother.
it's
Who's the mother again?
Alfred Woodard.
Yeah.
Oh,
I love her. Yes,
Icon.
absolutely, absolutely. And Isaiah Washington's in it as well. Well, I don't know how you feel about him.
Choices.
Right. Look.
How we talked about him on this
Choices.
show. So
I
interestingly
have a
enough,
lot to say about him.
everybody does every single time.
He's done some things that we
I mean, clearly.
have been questionable. So you know.
Wait, can I also ask really quickly, not to divert? What is everyone's pronouns?
Thank you. Mine are he, him. I do accept she and her just because, she's that girl. But
Perfect.
nonetheless.
I go by he, him, his, but if you girl, sis, she,
Cool.
I don't care. But he, him, his is what in the job, I tell people he, him, his. But when my mutuals, I'm like, girl, whatever. I know you're talking to me. What about you?
And I'm he, him. Yes,
Okay.
I'm he, him. I like to make sure. Cool. Perfect.
Yeah, respect that. All right, do you have another one?
If I don't know, like I always just say they, them. And so I'm like, okay, cool.
We do the same thing. We definitely do the same thing. Because sometimes we'll forget and we'll be like, oh, we're going to just say they, them until we get the green light to say their pronouns.
Yeah.
All right. One more, or are we going to moving on?
Oh, no, we can do the spotlight. I don't want to do another
All
one.
right.
I might throw one at y'all at the end of the time, though.
I love that. This week's spotlight goes by the name of King Kai. King Kai is a beauty influencer, and he is a beloved beauty influencer with over 144,000 followers on Instagram. He is Black Boy Joy Pride, and he is Black Boy Joy, and he is proud of it. I also love that he has a lot of videos with his father, and also he did family pictures and did all of his sisters and his mother's makeup in it, and his dad was in it as well, and that was really iconic because his makeup was done as well. And I just love that he is unapologetically himself, and his eyebrow game. When I watch him do his eyebrows, I am always obsessed with how gorgeous they are. So King Kai, keep serving that Black Boy Joy magic, and shout out to you and all of the lovely Black Boy Joy-ness that you have. You want to say something?
I wanted to ask how much of his content features his father.
I saw a video that he had. He put up an IG live video up on his page, and I also seen him do a makeup tutorial, talking with his father. And then I just seen a couple of videos. I just seen a family portrait. So I don't think it's heavily there, but there is a discussion, and his dad is visible in his content.
I asked because I really love it when queer men show themselves with their loving fathers. I think that's something that we need to see a lot more often, just so people know it's possible, and so that they also can imagine what that could look like, right? If a father sees that and it's oh, there's a man who has done the work, right, to show that unconditional love for their child, then maybe that's something I can imagine for myself as well.
I remember Milan Garçon going viral a couple of years ago with their father at their graduation, which Milan was on the most recent season of Legendary, and Milan had their makeup done, and also I believe they were wearing heels, and it was really great to see their father embracing them, being them authentic selves. So shout out to Milan for actually having a picture that went viral a couple of years ago at their graduation. I was I love seeing that.
Me too. It's really powerful. I love a queer child dad moment, child. I love it.
We do. And we're going to go into our hot topics today. So I'm going to start off with one that's probably girl, what in the world? So Texas passes a bill that drops requirement to teach that the KKK is morally wrong, and also drop MLK's I Have a Dream speech from their curriculum.
Which is okay, let's just be clear on something.
Let's unpack it.
The dream speech, right? The I Have a Dream speech, as iconic as it is, right? As influential and as much change as it has brought, it is not, I think, it is definitely not the most aggressive, form of civil rights content. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. Yeah. So it just seems like such a hateful thing to do, to remove that one. And you almost expect them to do things like take out Nat Turner if they ever included him in there, or to take out any of Frederick Douglass's contributions to freeing our people. And you think one thing people will typically leave alone, because of how he's been symbolized in this country is Martin Luther King and his content. So, so interesting to me that the hate is so strong there that is something that they would like to get rid of. Like that is the most overt form of racism that you can really find, because there are so many examples of people who have really shaken the table, right? And that isn't to say that the I Have a Dream speech doesn't shake the table, but I mean, motherfuckers like damn near flipping that bitch over, right? I mean, and
Malcolm X,
you sort of accept to be stripped from curriculum, and this is just like the most palatable version of anything.
It's very soft. It's very like light. It's very, you know.
Well, I mean, it's the one thing that white people love to quote when they're like, it's Martin Luther King Day, and they like to be in their yoga pose and then just tweet a quote that has an excerpt from his speech. My thing is, there's a major attempt to rewrite history in this country. Conservatives, Republicans are really trying everything they can to pretend like the things in the history that has happened and the accountability that they need to take. They don't want to. They don't want to have that moment. They don't want to continue to, the future of children are going to understand this is what's happening. This is what's happened. You can't erase that. You can't erase the racism, the systematic racism that's happened in this country. And so for me, it's just another attempt to see Republicans or conservatives and white people in general trying to rewrite history to make it seem more palatable and like they didn't do anything wrong and that racism doesn't exist. And even though in actions like this, it proves that it does. So you're furthering showing me that it does exist. And so, I don't know. It's not shocking to know that's coming out of Texas, to be quite honest. But still,
I did just watch.
Doesn't make it look stupid.
I just watched The Forever Purge, and it is based in Texas. So now I'm like,
what is to be gained from this? It's not as if we're like suddenly people are going to fucking forget, and it isn't like I guess people really do. One thing I forget, right, is that what we're taught when we're young is the only thing we know for a really long time. So I guess changing the curriculum in a state does affect a large portion of how those people will go into the world. Because I tend to think that there's like universal knowledge, right? Like what we know about Martin Luther King Jr. and what we know about the civil rights movement and any movement prior to that is universal. But I forget that a lot of that information people don't get until after like high school.
Yeah.
So this is going to be really damaging.
No, it is. It's going to completely shape like the future of how people grow into society, and especially imagine those people who don't understand any of that are not being taught critical race theory, and then they're going into positions of power, and that's affecting the future generations of kids of color, specifically Black kids, and Black folks in this country. Like it's scary, to be honest.
It is scary. I have to sit on that for a second because I was like, oh, there's not that much damage. I'm thinking like, the rest of the world knows better, but Texas is a big ass state. And, getting people in those formative years is going to be really
I'm just compuzzled on why do you want to not say, why do you really want to say that the KKK is not morally wrong? Like, why are you trying to not teach that? Like, what is your purpose? Like,
what is the objective there? Like, I would be curious about how do you frame the KKK, if not as, I guess I know that they won't typically call them a terrorist organization, but how do you productively or positively frame the KKK? Like, how can they do that?
Well, that's the First Amendment, freedom of speech. Like that's how they can positively frame them. That's their Birth of a Nation to be able to do what they're doing.
Birth of a Nation. Like remember what they did in Birth of a Nation. In order for them to glorify the KKK, they had to make us look like animals in that film. So like that may be something that is. We are manipulated again to be this vilified trope. Maybe I don't know. I'm clearly not going to be in that session, that class.
So, and I don't want to sit on this thought for too long because I know how problematic any sort of thoughts around it can be. But I just want to bring up this very, very quick point that if you are able to teach people that anti-Blackness is protected under the First Amendment, then would you not be able to do the same for anti-Semitism? For anti-Semitism, which I am 100% against. But like, let's imagine a reality where we did this with anti-Semitism, right? Like, that's not going to happen. So it's interesting to me that anti-Blackness is not put at the same level. And the reason why I'm treading lightly is because people have lost jobs talking about anti-Semitism, but I just feel like those two things should be treated the same way. And one is more protected by the state than the other. And that thing is clearly anti-Semitism.
Girl, you shaking the table.
That's it. I'm not trying to become Nick Cannon up in here. I'm just saying this is not something that would happen if we were talking about anti-Semitism. And I think it's unfortunate that this country sees itself in the light, because we haven't always been on the right side of that either. So it's just very interesting where this country puts itself in relation to racial hate. But alas, next.
Kanye dropping music on Friday, y'all.
What a hard pivot.
Yo, honey, you will pick up a topic and drop that bitch like a hot potato. Trust and believe.
We have no problem throwing that bitch to the air.
Oh my goodness.
How do you feel about the Kanye dropping music on Friday and the way he pubbed it though with Shakari's commercial? What are your thoughts?
I'm conflicted. I'm honestly so conflicted because this isn't the same Kanye that was dropping 808 in heartbeats and that moment where I was such a fan of his. I used to be such a fan of his, but when we kind of started to see either it being a mental health decline or him supporting things that just did not align, it didn't make sense, and him censoring whiteness in ways that was just kind of mind-blowing, because that completely was a sharp left turn from what we knew him as. And so for me, it's like I'm excited to see all of the hype around his music being like, oh, this is a moment, this is going to be incredible. But I'm also like, why do you deserve my support after you basically, spit in the faces of a community that supported you forever? And so at this point, I don't know. I'm conflicted. I'm really, really conflicted. I'm not sure whether to be excited or not. When I saw the news, I was like, cool, cute. And when I also saw the news with the little commercial with Shakari, I was like, oh, this is exciting. This is a moment. But like, I don't know. It kind of went in one ear and out the other.
Same here. I was just like, I mean, but the thing is, as much as I respect Kanye's creative genius, I'm not typically excited about his albums. The last album I did get excited by was Life of Pablo. And that was because the first song I heard was Ultralight Beam, and I heard Kelly Price singing on it, and I was like, oh shit, this might be lit. But I mean, like, year after year, Kanye has either majorly disappointed me or failed to, care for his mental health in a way that has been detrimental to not only himself, but to his fan base and to the country in general. So, I mean, like, have fun.
I always ask people, like, their thoughts on his music. I loved his music. I think the last one I really listened to was Jesus. And I think it's because I love this, like, alternative, like, hip-hop-ish type of space. Yeah. But it does start to go into, like, weird, like, I think his beliefs, I started to be like, I can't listen to this without just, like, thinking about, like, what your thought process was with this. So I definitely think the last one I, like, kind of, like, stand was Jesus. But we'll see what the girls give for that.
I have a hard time separating the art from the artist because they're all one person. I just don't think, in my opinion, I just don't think that's doable because you are the same. It's coming from you. And so to say that we have to separate it to understand it and take it in is just not true, because I need to understand you, and what you're showing me is just ignorance. So for me, that's how I'm going to interpret your art. No matter if it's a gospel song, if you want to do the Sunday service choir, that's still not going to affect me. I'm sorry. Like,
it's a mind fuck, I think. It's like a mind fuck, because you're like, wait, this is this. You want me to, like, detach this person and, like, treat these two different things as one, but then you also, like, this person create.
I'm not doing it.
It's a weird combination. And they want us to do this also with, like, celebrities and, like, actors and, like, their ones too. Like, people are like, oh, well, this is their thoughts with their talent. I'm like, but, like, sometimes I'm like, girl, where does it come from? Where do they? So,
because
like,
Ryan's right. It informs your art, and it informs how you create. And I feel like of course, there's some nuance to that. But I mean, you stand on your fucking values. And if I find out that you're going against some of my core ones, yeah, I'm not about to fucking enjoy your art. Nah, bro, we on the line. That's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, but on a lighter note, Normani dropped West Side, y'all.
That video was amazing.
She did. She did. And she did what she had
you
to
met
do.
her. You met her as well. How was that?
I did. Okay, so I've met her a couple times actually.
Yes.
And I've been very open about my first time meeting her, where she was just really dry. I did not like her. If I'm being honest.
Hilarious.
I did not enjoy her, but I also have to give her grace and space because she does deal with social anxiety. And I think that can play a lot into it. And so when you give a person grace and space in that moment, like I can understand. But this second go around, she was on it. You could just feel the happiness on her, the feeling, the moment of like, she's letting go of like the pressures, because I think that's really what's informed one, that long break, and then also the expectations. And like, I think she's kind of putting everything out there at this point. And like meeting her and getting to tell her my thoughts and just kind of, having that moment where we got to chat a little bit. It was really nice. We connected. And I think she really cares what certain people think of her music, like Black people specifically. And I think she really cares about that, because the guy who did the interview was like a white guy. And I think, and just from my experiences, I can get different interviews versus other people who are interviewing because of like similar connections, or I'm just going to go there and just kind of be honest. And there's like more of a safe space feeling. And so even just chatting with her for a little bit, she was just like, yeah. So like, what did you really think? And I'm like, okay, I loved it. I really did. I really enjoyed it.
I think I love that with Black people, we have this like, we get like real close. Like, okay, bitch, no holds barred. Like I was watching like Mary J Blige's My Life documentary, and like she was talking about like how she was uncomfortable with this like white woman, but like when we were Black folks, we'd be like, okay, girl, give me the honesty. And I think that I love that about us, because we were able to like, you see that relief shift from us.
Well, Devery, do you remember that Hari Ziad said the same thing when they were here? That like the interviews that they've done with white people have, been a lot of the same questions, but that when they came here, the questions we asked as queer Black people were different, and they said that they were more comfortable here. So I think you're absolutely right that whoever the interviewer is, if it's a Black person talking to a Black person, you're gonna get different results, because you'll get different questions too. Like
you will get the questions that I think sometimes that the white people may not feel like they can ask, or they may not feel like they know, or they didn't even think about asking.
I don't even think they think about it. They're not thinking about it because they don't have the experience. They don't even have the range to have a lot of the conversations that we're having. And so to be honest, like I don't even want them to try. Stay in your lane. If I'm being really honest, stay in your lane.
I'll keep this. I'll do this very surface level interview, but then at 2 p.m. I'll get to you watch that interview. Look, I'll be like, watch the interview with this person, because they ask the questions. And then I want to just quickly go into. Well, also I love West Side. I love the video. I love the concept. I did hear that Aaliyah's uncle or cousin was again trying to be like, she did not clear that, but I've read a tweet immediately saying like they were like, "Child, he does this every month." Next day.
Yes, he does. He literally does it every single time. I'm tired of hearing about it. Goddamn it.
Yeah. He doesn't even speak when it's like Aaliyah's birthday or anything. So it's just like, what are you looking for a check? Like, what's the issue here?
Yeah. And is he not licensing out her stuff for like freaking retail stores? Because if I see another bum ass Aaliyah shirt at H&M, I'm gonna be really fucking irritated.
I'm just saying. I mean, the bum ass shirt. And then last but not least, Lil Nas X Industry Baby is dropping tonight, Pacific time, but 12.
Is that a video or is it like a project?
It's both.
I think it's both. I think it's a single.
It's a single and it's a music video.
Okay.
Let's say my sis is a marketing strategist. All right.
Brilliant.
When I thought my girl was going to jail.
Girl.
I thought she was going to jail. I was like, free my sis, Lil Nas. But then I seen TikTok. Yeah. When he was like, I seen also the one he's like, if I drop the soap, and he was like, oh no, I'm gonna do that. I don't know.
I like the one where he was like, when you are about to go to jail, but your label says to keep making TikTok.
And he's like crying.
That little nigga is funny. Let me tell you something. I really love it that Lil Nas X is a barb because that really informs his internet presence. And that little motherfucker is hilarious, okay? That's a smart nigga.
Every time he shows up, I'm like, he's a barb. I think when he said that, and we all were like, and we're gonna stand.
It makes sense. It makes complete sense. And I think it's just so interesting. I tweeted this where I was like, I love that in everything he's doing, he's going to make everyone who opposes him look stupid as hell. And it's so smart. It's so well done. It's one of those things where it's like, he's doing it in his own way. There's going to be comedy attached to it. And oftentimes if you know, you know. And sometimes the jokes fly right over people's head and they don't even get it. And that's because they're stuck in their own, problematic mind frame.
Yeah, I love that she's a troll, and I absolutely love trolls.
It's the best.
I would, if I had that notoriety, I would love to literally just get on people's skin, get under people's skin. Like when at the BET Awards, like literally, like the whole time I was watching, I was like, dude, I know you're gonna do it. When is he?
I will say, I want. As he grows and his star grows, and as obviously he gets older, I think it works really well now because I think he's really he knows internet culture and he knows how to use it for his advantage. But I also want him to have a space where he doesn't feel like he has to either respond to everything or feel like he has to kind of put himself out there in the ways of like responding to every negative thing that he sees from like just ignorant folks on the internet, right? Like if you're going to do it to like bring the joke forward, cool. But there's a pressure that comes with that I often feel celebrities get lost in when they feel like they gotta always be on the just ready to fight in the response. And I think that can be exhausting. And that also can possibly get in the way of your own storytelling and your artistry. And so I'm hoping that he is in the driver's seat when it comes to understanding this, what it is, and taking it for what it is, and doesn't get lost in it to the sense of like, he's going to be clapping back every 5 seconds to everyone who needs to, because you don't have to. At this point, you are a force. You're not going anywhere. And so you don't really have to do the back and forth with people.
I think about Azalea Banks immediately. I don't know. I thought about that. Like her job, she felt was to clap back. And I was like, girl, you got stopped on Instagram from having followers.
She's offensive too, though. She be on the offense. She be on the offense with that shit. The thing about Lil Nas X is he be on the defense. But my thing is, Ryan, I don't know, you give me your insight about this, but it almost seems like he feels like he has to. Like there's no sort of like protection barrier, and it's just him. So I think if there were, I don't know if there is or if there isn't, but I would imagine if there were a team of people who were protecting him from that, who were just like having him focus on other things, he wouldn't be responding to everything. And I hope that as his career progresses, there is a team of people who can help him sort of like mitigate exposure to those things, or at least just help him deal with it so that he doesn't have to.
No, I agree. I think that's why it's so important to find your tribe and have your tribe of people, right? Because he's technically like the blueprint. Yes, there have been queer artists in the history of time, like for sure. But at this height of success and what he's doing and the doors that he's kind of opening and actually actively building the bridge. I think I think it's a learning process. It's what we're seeing in real time is how he's probably adjusting to it in real time. But I always go back to like that TikTok series where he was like revealing his story and revealing in certain TikToks like the story of like Lil Nas X and how it all came out and the emotion and the vulnerability and the talks about mental health issues that he was facing at the time. Like all of that doesn't go anywhere just because you got a shit ton of money in your bank and you're at this height of success. Like that's still there. It just depends on if you have the tools and the resources to help you navigate in a healthier way. And so that's, for me, I'm always thinking about that because us as Black queer folks, we're just trying to survive and simply exist. Imagine having the spotlight of millions on you as well. Like I can only imagine. So, I think about that and I just hope he has the right folks around him.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to Industry Baby. I'm going to instantly stand and stream
Same.
it. So if you all see it all over my social media account, you can block me because it's going to happen. You know, it's going to happen tomorrow, all day, every day. You're going to get it again and again and again and again. But we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes of our episode with Ryan. All right, Ryan, this is where we get to talk about you, and this is where you get to brag, and this is where you get to stunt your stuff and strut
Oh
your stuff,
gosh.
honey. Okay, so first of all, we want you to tell our listeners and our viewers about who you are. This is the part where you can brag. You can talk about your accolades. I know you probably are, as you know, we have imposter syndrome, and we sometimes don't feel like we can, but do it.
It's true.
All
It's
right, we
true.
want you to
It's
do
true.
this.
Now, like
Tell us about
right
who you
now,
are.
okay, so I
Oh.
am from Nashville, Tennessee. Let's start there.
Yes.
I'm a Southern boy at heart. And I moved out to Los Angeles. It'll be about 6 years at this point. And yeah, this journey, my career has just kind of been a wild ride. I'm honestly just kind of letting go. I spent a lot of time working in fashion at a time. I was doing some incredible work, working for New York Fashion Week and doing the event planning and the PR side of that. And then moved out to LA doing fashion stuff out here for a magazine called Code. And it was really cool. It was really wonderful. But then I ended up getting into social media stuff, which led me to being on camera, and then led me into kind of like the YouTube space, which then led me into like radio, and then led me into working with MTV and doing all these things. So it's kind of like I haven't planned anything that I'm working. Like literally, I have not planned a damn thing.
That's right.
But I'm not even lying. I can't. I have to be honest. Like I think people, they see it online and they're just like, oh, this is what he's always wanted to do. And this was the furthest thing from what I wanted to do. I didn't come out here to be like no personality or interviewing Demi Lovato. Never. I was behind the scenes. Like I love the behind the scenes efforts that it takes to create the product. I think that it's the most magical, the stress, the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears of it all, like, and then to see it all come to fruition, like that is just something that I've always loved and always feel very passionate about. So having the information, like the knowledge about being behind the scenes, but then also being able to be in front of the camera or behind the mic has been just very, very beneficial. And so, yeah, like it's just been insane how everything's kind of played out. Like I'm on MTV's new Snapchat show called Bob Quiz. It's a weekly quiz trivia show about pop culture, music,
Love a good game.
Gen Z news. It's really fun. I just wrapped up another show with them called Sound Up. That was kind of like a weekly panel show where I was just giving my opinion on stuff and kind of turning into a culture commentator. I've done Tamron Hall's talk show earlier this year.
Where Sherry Pie was...
Yes, with the infamous Drag Race episode.
When I say you let in, I was like, nah.
We talked about that.
Really?
Yeah, we did.
Yes. To me,
I was so nervous. You know, all of that happened. That came based off of a tweet that I sent, and they saw the tweet, and then they like DM'd me and was like, "Do you want to come on?" I was like, when? And they were like, yeah, in the morning. I was like, what? I was like, okay, yeah, why not? You don't see someone who is queer, fat, and Black on national television talking about this type of stuff. So I'm taking every opportunity that I can get, even if people hate me or not.
So dope. It was necessary. And so, like, how did you know this was like your lane, like hosting? Like you are in this bag of hosting now. Like, how did you know this was that lane? Because you said you were behind the scenes and this was like thrown into you. Like, how did you know, like, let me stick to this right now?
Well, I think that's really interesting. I think it's all about the people around me who have like championed me. I think the people who allow me to take up space, because for me, it was all about representation. And it was, I wasn't, when I was doing carpets or I was going to like, interview someone, I wasn't seeing the other interviewers looking like me. And so for me, that was like one of those things where I was like, am I sure I'm supposed to be in this space? Like, am I supposed to be here in this moment? And I had just people who championed me being like, no, Ryan, you're sticking with that. I remember when I first moved out here, my first job, they were like trying to give me like a YouTube show on their channel. Cause it was like they had different YouTube channels and it was kind of like like that. And I literally got into a full-blown argument with my boss in her office being like, I'm not doing it. I'm sticking to my job. You can't force me to be on camera. And like, she still now to this day, like she'll DM me being like, you remember that argument that we had? What was that shit you was talking? But it was just one of those things where I just was so fearful about being like, well, why would people want to hear from me? Like, why would people want to, if I'm not seeing other people who take up space, who look like me, why would they want to hear from me? And so that was just, that was something that I battled with. And so I think it really goes out to the people who have championed me and who have been like, no, Ryan, you have something to say that's worth it. And even people who have reached out being like, I've listened to you. And the fact that you talked about your queerness, or you talked about your Blackness, you talked about your fatness, you've called out white supremacy in every way that you can. And I thought you were one of those, you were going to be one of those token Blacks, but no, I was shocked to find out that you was calling out white folks. It's all these conversations that I had where I was just like, oh, well, maybe I should kind of stick with this and just kind of let, whoever the higher power is, just kind of guide me into doing it. Because at this point, I've just kind of let go. And as long as the check's clear, girl, we're good.
As a follow-up to that, when did you feel yourself making like the official transition into understanding, like I belong in these spaces and I'm going to keep on going into them?
Just now, literally just probably at the top of this year.
Wow.
Even a little bit towards the tail end of last year when I was able, the tail end of last year, I was able to like get my own place. Like, this is my first place by myself in Los Angeles.
Congratulations.
And it was a huge thing. Thank you so much. It was a huge thing for me where I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And I had to kind of just be like, well, if you want to do this, then you need to give it 110%. Yeah. Because I have so many people where I'm not afraid of having mentors. My friends end up being mentors to me, like people who are doing the same things that I'm doing. Like most of my friends are kind of hosts, and they've been doing it for so long. And I have to kind of like, where they're just like, Ryan, you're doing something, like you're aligned with something right now where it's just like, we've been doing this for so long and it's happening for you. And I'm like, well, I'm happy that I can be in this space where now I can extend the table and create other tables for them and bringing my friends into cool opportunities, or, cooking them up and bringing us all in, kind of like a Trojan horse. Because I'm like, if I'm supposed to do this, then I'm gonna pretend and fake it till I make it, and then just bring everyone in that I know who's actually really talented and who deserves it.
You're also friends with one of our past guests, Archie J, and he's also a host as well. So
I love me some
Archie. We
Archie's
did too.
So cool.
And that's crazy. Me and Archie's friendship was a product of the quarantine. We started just FaceTiming. Like I knew him like casually before, and then we started like FaceTiming, and it became like we were talking every single day, and we were just really there for each other. And it's just been nice to kind of find finally my tribe. It's been really great.
I think that's dope, Doran. I think quarantine, a lot of us have seen some triumphant moments happen in a space that is kind of dark and kind of low for most. But I think that is very helpful. And I think that also like has created opportunities. Like I say, you've done a lot of things that require you to be remote. So you can be in these like the panels, or you can be on the Tamron Hall show, or you can be with Snapchat and MTV and all that stuff. So I think that has been very helpful. But I do want to know, as you do have friends, like you said, that have been hosting like longer than you have, and have I want to say trained experience, or like studied it.
Literally.
Do you feel like there's pressure sometimes for you to walk into a space where you have this raw talent that you basically like, it was not thrown to you, but like you just gradually got into it?
Oh my God, all the time. I think that's the pressure that I put on myself, and like that's the imposter syndrome kind of like kicking in. And oftentimes I have to remind myself that imposter syndrome is nothing but a product of white supremacy, because my white counterparts do not even feel that at any moment, at any time. And like I be in spaces with them and they'll just be like, yeah, no big deal. Like it's, and so, but for me it does, because I think that's why I strive to do as the best thing that I can, then, but also like making sure that I'm making space for others. If I'm given these opportunities, and if I'm kind of becoming the one that people are picking out, being like, yeah, we liked him, well, then I'm going to bring other people in. But there's most definitely been like pressure where I used to think, oh, well, maybe I need to go to like an official hosting class, or an official, like go read teleprompter, like training course.
Thought of that too.
And like, At the end of the day, I've had friends being like, no, you don't need it. And even then, like, even people who run these courses have told me, like, at this point, people are looking for raw talent. Like, that's what they want to see.
Nice.
And so I've just kind of been like, well, I guess if people want me, then they just want me for who I am, right? But I can't lie. I can't sit up here and lie and be like, that is not something that I constantly think about and constantly, like, sits on me with the pressures of just being like, I want to prove to everyone that I can do. And I also want to prove to myself, because doing I think this is a big deal, and there's so many opportunities out here, and I don't want to ever waste one, because as queer Black folks and just Black folks in general, once you feel like you get an opportunity, you're doing everything you can to keep those opportunities coming, because you feel like that's your first and only chance. You do, because of that, and that's just how it works when you look at the history of it. But that pressure can inform me, but I try not to think too much about it, especially when I'm in the moment, because I don't want it to mess up my performance. I really don't.
Yeah, I like that.
What are some of the tips and tricks to being a great host and cultural commentator?
Listening, engaging, like actively listening. Like, I think it's really interesting. As I've kind of like trained myself and like watched interviews, like I've watched hours of interviews from just different hosts that I've seen or admire, and just people that I'm just like, I want to kind of like follow in their footsteps, or even just kind of new people that I see. There's always this moment of active listening that is so important, where you're really engaging. And like one thing that I always do in my interviews, whether it's like a big celebrity or not, I always start off before I hit like record saying, I want this interview to be like two friends talking on a couch. I'm not trying to get a soundbite. I just want natural conversation. And at the end of the interview, they're always like, "Oh yeah, you were right. Like that was just like, we were just like literally, I forgot the mic was there." And I end up getting the best moments from that, right? And I think the best example of that was my Demi Lovato interview, where we were just naturally talking. And then they talked about kind of like the froyo diet culture thing naturally, because they wanted to bring it up. And that's something where you know when someone feels comfortable, you know when they start to trust you, because trust is such a large part of what I want and what I do. Because I'm not doing the superficial conversations. Like I think those are nice, but for me, I want to get to know people. I want to find out something new, or find out who this person is, regardless of the glitz and glam. And so that's what I'm looking into. And so I think active listening, and then also being prepared too. Don't forget that, honey. Be overly prepared. Being overly prepared. But then for the culture commentating side of it, actually know what the culture is speaking of. Doing research, reading. For me, it's about surrounding, especially on Twitter. It's like, I only follow a certain amount of people. I've kind of curated the people that I'm following, because I think they're interesting. I think they're either writers, they're Black, directors, they're queer directors. They're all of these different intersections where I'm like, they're the ones pushing the culture forward. If I'm watching them, then I can go into rooms like HBO Max or Netflix. And when I'm, consulting on series, being like, no, you can't tell the story this way, because this is not what we're trying to move forward. This is not the culture. This is not what the conversation online is having. And so I think all of these things about kind of just being in the know, being prepared, listening, and also just being yourself. Just have the conversation. Ask what you want to ask. Ask.
I appreciate. No, go ahead.
Go. Sorry, it was my connection.
I appreciate that. Ask what you want to ask. But then I was like, well, what if you ask something they don't want to answer?
oh my God. I've had that. And I've interviewed Paris Hilton last year. And because of, she's into this activism space, and somewhat of like going against the troubled teen industry. And I asked her, because it was 2020, it was an election year. She supported Donald Trump at the time. And I remember in the interview, I was going to ask her a question where I was like, how did you reflect? Have you reflected on certain statements that you've made, political, like, or politics wise? How have you reflected now, especially throughout your kind of growth in the activism space? It's all about also how you say it too. Because if you're too blunt, then they're going to get offended. But if you kind of work it around there and find a little sweet spot, then they'll answer it. But like Paris was ready to answer it, but it was a publicist that was like, "Oh, we didn't come here to do that." And so there's different factors into it, right? But then Paris was like, because also it depends on how you react to that moment. For me, I'm just going to keep it lighthearted. I'm going to be like, all right, cool, that's fine. Let's move on to the next thing. And Paris was like, oh, I really like you. Like, I like that nothing phases. Like, that's not intimidating you from even asking another question that is just as hard-hitting as what you want to do. And so it really just depends on how you ask it and how you phrase it, in my opinion, because I've gotten every question for the most part answered that I wanted to answer, no matter even if I'm holding someone accountable in the moment. Like I've interviewed Perez Hilton, and I've told him to his face that he gets on my nerves, and some of his things and the history of what he's done is very problematic. And that's the reason why no one can trust you again, because you're still in the foolishness. And we've had an honest back and forth because it's just real. Like I'm just going to be as 100% real with you. And I think a lot of times people expect you just to be all nice and be yes, but for me, I'm not gonna do that.
I appreciate that about you, and I'm going to keep that in my back pocket because I think it's really easy for us, especially in our identities, to think that that's something we would have to mitigate, right? Like to really stay on that fine line, but you being able to ask those hard-hitting questions nonetheless, and to stand forthright in your beliefs. That's some helpful information. I think that's
what sets you apart. That's what sets you apart. When you're in the rooms with, and you're like being lined up with all of these different hosts, because the community out here is very small. You got to find something that's going to set you apart. And like, there's something about if you have the ability of making someone feel as comfortable as possible and then still able to get the hard, like the questions that everyone wants to know, that's your sweet spot. That's the perfect thing, because that's why I want to get you as relaxed as possible.
Yeah.
And then come in with the killer.
Come on, Oprah. Come on, Oprah.
Literally. It's the school of Oprah. It's the school of Oprah.
It is
the school of Oprah.
I think that's something that is, I see that we try to do. We definitely are like someone we not try. We do.
Y'all
we definitely
do
want
that.
our guests to
I feel
be
so
comfortable.
comfortable.
We want our guests to be comfortable, but we also tell them like if there's something that you do not want us to say, please be like next case. Like we are like, and on to the next, because we understand the conversation.
And I think that's also really interesting too. Like I think you should always preface that, being like, if there's not something you want to talk about, don't talk about it. Because 9 out of 10, once they're into the conversation, they will end up bringing it up themselves. And it's just, I think people, especially if you're on that side of, if you're a celebrity and you honestly getting, doing interviews all the time, I think there's something about consent and having this agency of who you are and being like, I want to have the agency to tell my business. I don't want you to try to, trick me into telling it. That is something that I think is so important that a lot of people don't think about, because they're so rushing to get a story, to get a headline, to get that viral moment. And you forget that, guess what? You're still talking to someone who is a human being. At the end of the day. And they'll give you just the bare minimum, and then you'll have the same interview that 50 other people got. But if you let them have agency in who they are, and the consent is there, they're going to give you everything and more.
Yeah. How do you get through interviews that you see as deem as tough, right? Or the person is not really opening up, or you see that you don't really, the vibe is very uncomfortable, or like you just don't want to interact with them. How do you get through that specific interview? You don't have to say names either.
No. I've had that happen. Oftentimes, see, this is. I think this is catered strictly to me, because there's something that I can do where I can make a joke about something where I'm like bringing humor into it, but I'm being dead serious. And so I'll make a joke being like, they're dry, or you're just like, I'll be like, I did that recently at the festival where I was having a conversation with one of the artists, and he was just giving me one-liners. And someone came up to me, like multiple people came up to me afterwards, they would see me in the crowd and be like, yeah, the way you handled that interview, because that guy was so boring, and you were basically telling him he was boring. But it's just like, he wasn't like understanding it. And that, I think there's a way of doing it, bringing humor into those moments where you can make a joke being like, you can get a little comfortable if you want to, like you can relax, like this is, and I think that can, if you're making things lighthearted, that can make people feel like they don't have to be on the defense, because I think oftentimes when you're getting that energy, that means something has happened that has traumatized them in a way where they feel like, if I say the wrong thing, I'm about to be like out of here. I need you to be stripped from that when we're having a conversation, right? And sometimes you may get it, and sometimes they still may be very hard, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna, if I context matters, reading the room matters. I'm not going to push. I'm not going to push too much. I'm going to make one joke, and if it doesn't land, or if they, their mood or their vibe hasn't changed, then we're going to keep it moving, and then we're just going to wrap up the interview, right? I'm not going to force anything.
That's a part of knowing people too, though, right?
Yeah.
Like being a conversationalist. These are sort of the things you pick up when you're just talking to people in any capacity.
Literally.
So I this is why raw talent matters.
You gotta know when somebody's not feeling it. You gotta be like, all right, we're gonna go to the next one. Because if you don't, you're still asking these questions. You're gonna get this short answer, and then you might get the Mary J. Blige effect and be like, oh, you don't know.
You don't get it.
You don't get it. Next case, and then you look stupid because you're getting clapped at. So,
I appreciated her for showing that moment too, because that's exactly what I was thinking of during this segment.
You don't get it.
So we touched on it for like a little bit, but do you feel like for Black and queer representation that we're being tokenized, or do you, from your experience and from what you've seen, do you feel like our work is actually being appreciated in this moment?
I think that's interesting, because I think after this racial awakening that we saw this country have last year, you would think that it was going to like actually change things. And I think we find ourselves in this moment where, especially during Pride season, you start to look at you start to realize being like, what happened to all that protesting and all the Black Lives Matter hashtags and all these different things and the energy that was there last year when we were, when everyone thought it was like the thing to do, the trend to do, right?
Yeah.
It's not there. So oftentimes I look at Black and queer representation as, I think white people look at it as like, oh, well, we have to fill a quota. We have to do this inclusion diversity thing. So let's just grab the person that we think we possibly can have some sort of control over. Because I think that's also plays a part into it when you see the talent, like certain talent who's in the Black talent that you see are kind of in the, they've passed the mark, or they're sitting at the table, whatever, and they're being deemed this next people, but they're also like, I don't want to question anyone's Blackness, but they also kind of like still have a proximity to whiteness that is like has a chokehold on them.
Yeah.
That's the best way that I can say it.
And it's the best way I can hear it.
And so it's just really interesting to kind of see, because I think Black queer representation's here. I mean, we're seeing it. We're not going anywhere, regardless of if people are paying attention or not. I want people to pay attention, but I also want people to pay attention and mean it. I don't want them to feel like they have to pay attention because it's a trend, or because they have to fill a quota, or we're only getting, jobs or only getting opportunities because, oh my God, we have to get more Black people in here.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel that. And I also don't think we should be taking on that narrative, because our talent matters, and who we are, and our experiences and our stories matter. And so we can't attach ourselves to that narrative. And so I'm hoping that we see more Black queer and trans representation, specifically Black trans women, because I think that's super important. I think they, and even Black non-binary folks, I would love to see trans and non-binary folks have more of a space to kind of control the narrative and be a part of the conversation, because I think us as Black gay folks, there's, patriarchy and misogyny all plays into it, even in our own little intersections and our own marginalized communities. And so we have to be able to acknowledge these things, and also see it for ourselves of like, we can also have some sort of privilege, and we have to use that privilege to make sure we're uplifting each other in our own communities. So I don't know. I'm hoping that it's not being tokenized, but I do see forms of it sometimes being tokenized on the people who have proximities to whiteness, because they are the ones who are acceptable, are deemed acceptable by white people. And that's still a form of white supremacy, in my opinion. And yeah, I hope I answered the question. I don't even know if I did.
You did. It sparked another question in me.
Same.
Like, once you start to see that coming, what are the ways that you would, I mean, first of all, have you seen that happen to you? And if you haven't, what are the ways that you would like course correct?
How do you change that narrative?
Right.
So for me, Because I'm the only Black face on my radio station, and it's a LGBTQ. It's called Channel Q. It's the first nationally syndicated LGBTQ station. We're across the country. A company called Radio.com, Odyssey, and so it's cool. It's a 4-hour afternoon drive show. My co-host is a white woman, and I'm the only Black face. And oftentimes, I was feeling like, especially last year, in the depths of everything going on. When I tell you they tapped on my shoulder for everything fucking Black and everything that it was exhausting. It was exhausting. And then oftentimes I feel like I'm also going to call it out. I think that I've been labeled deemable by white folks as well. Like I'm in white spaces all the time. Most of the times, especially I feel like this year, especially as I've become more into Black spaces and a lot of my career was in white spaces, right? Yeah. And I think that's why sometimes when people meet me or they see me online or they meet me in person, they're like, "Oh, I thought I pegged you as someone else," and then they realize that I'm not that girl, right? And it's really interesting because I think I'm using that space. I'm using that tokenization and flipping it on its head in a way that I feel like
infiltration.
Okay, I'm going to. If you think I'm that girl, okay, I'm gonna give you a couple yes and a honeys, but then I'm also the yes and the honeys are gonna be following up like, honey, you're a white ass racist, and let me tell you
that's
why.
Right.
No, we do
so
that.
That's literally how I've been able to kind of infiltrate the system. I think that's the best word of being like, well, I'm going to stand my ground, speak what I want to speak, because we have most of the majority of our listeners are older, cis, white, gay men, and they write in. I had someone last week call in, they found our number and they called in and wanted to call me a racist and basically called me then like they were on the phone yelling at me because of something that I said. And I said, well, let me tell you this, as we wrap up, I need to go back on air. If this triggered you so much, I think you need to go do the work on yourself. You're still listening. I appreciate you for listening.
I did my job.
But I'm still going to say what I'm going to say. I've had articles written about me telling me I need to shut my mouth by older white men. And so it's these things where as long as I'm getting those reactions, I'm going to keep saying what I'm saying. Because it means that it means that I'm doing something right. And it means that if I'm bothering those people, that means guess what? You're hearing an experience that's not your own. Yeah. You're hearing an experience that's not your own.
That allows you to set yourself apart as well. And first of all, I think we all have to infiltrate at some time. I think a lot of people have to play up this thing sometimes to get in and then shake shit up. I know I do that all the time. Sometimes I actually come off like myself before I get in. So I'm like, hold on, bitch. Wait. Get in there and shut shit down. Don't show them the beginning that you're coming in. Yeah.
I think there is a game that you have to play because it's just, this is the system that we're living in and you got to understand it. But I also think I'm not playing the game in the sense of like, I'm losing myself or losing who I am. And I'm not playing the game to be here to coddle any person that is white. Yeah. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to, if you want me to be here, if you're hiring me to be behind the mic, if you're hiring me to be in front of the camera, then I'm coming as 100% myself. It's your fault that you didn't do the research on who I am.
I agree.
Bitch, you didn't read my reel. You didn't watch my reel.
That's that. And so I think there is a game that you have to play. There is, networking that you have to do. You have to be able to be in the one thing my mother taught me that has stuck with me from a very young age is adapting to your environment. And I've taken that full on in any space that I'm in. I'm adapting to my environment, but still staying true to myself. And that's the sweet spot. That's the key. And I think that's how you get there.
I think a lot of us have heard that, especially queer people. I think we've heard that survival. Sometimes we gotta adapt to survive, but then also not be able to lose our identities when we are doing that. Which sometimes people who are getting smacked around by the white man in their head, they sometimes are true losing that. Which is like if you create that balance and those boundaries where you are getting, you are adapting but yet still maintaining. I think that's the sweet spot. I think that's
I have a meeting. I just got a Slack that I have a meeting. Okay.
Okay, so so let's wrap. What is next for you and your endeavors? We can do a part two. But what is next?
Okay, yeah,
What's
I would
next for
love
you
to.
and
I
your
would love
endeavors?
to come back. I would love.
Yes.
Oh my God, please.
Next for you and
Next,
endeavors.
I actually have some really cool stuff coming up that I hate to be that girl, but I can't say anything. But it's going to be announced in September, which is
We
really
got
cool.
you. We got you.
And yeah, please just stick around and keep listening to my radio show. Let's Go There with Cheer and Ryan. It's on daily. You can listen to it
Yes.
live on the radio dial near you, or you can listen to it on the Odyssey app. You can download it. It's free. It's all that great stuff. And then check
Mhm.
me on a Snapchat every Friday, MTV Bop Quiz. And follow me on socials because I'm always doing some mess. I don't know. I don't really
Yes.
post a lot on Instagram because I get anxiety about it, but I post on Twitter a ton.
Well, no,
That's how
thank
I
you, bro.
feel.
I'm glad you already did that. If you need to, you can step away. We're going to do our closeout, but we'll definitely hit you up with all of our, we'll
Please,
definitely
I
hit you up.
love y'all. Y'all were absolutely amazing. Can we be friends?
Yes,
Yes.
follow us on social media. Give us our contact.
Please, I'm like going to DM you both my number.
Yes. Okay. Take care.
Thank you,
Take care.
I'm really
Ryan.
excited. Bye, y'all. Love you, love you, love you.
Bye. All right, you all. So you all can definitely follow us like we always do at the end of the podcast. If you would like to continue the conversation with me on my social medias, you can hit me up at _Lord Every. That is _LORDEVERY on Instagram and Twitter.
And you guys know you can follow me on Instagram at Derwin King. That's DERWINKING. And on Twitter at Free Negro. That's FREENEGREAUX.
And if you all would like to continue the conversation with the podcast, you all can hit us up on That Black Boy Joy on Instagram and Twitter. And you all can also write into us at thatblackboyjoypodcast@gmail.com. And you can all check us out on YouTube as well, where we have our YouTube videos for our episodes as well. And like we always tell our guests, please be so in love with who you are.